You're taking a look inside Kansas politics. Welcome in. I'm Rebecca Chung. It's been a busy week in Kansas politics. Everything from a renewed push for transparency from DCF to a battle over tax relief. Today, we're breaking all of it down with political experts Michael Smith and Bill Finder. Michael, Bill, let's start with a call for transparency from the Department of Children and Families. It's nothing new, but it's the death of 5-year-old Zoe Felix that has brought this issue back in the spotlight. Now, Felix was raped and murdered near a homeless campsite where she was believed to be staying with her father, sister, and a family acquaintance. Neighbors told us that the group was kicked out by Felix's mother, and they also say that they made several reports to Child Protective Services about Zoe's home life, but Zoe was never permanently removed from the home. So far, DCF released a summary report that substantiates a sexual abuse case filed with the agency after Felix's death, and a physical abuse case has yet to be determined. Before that, DCF was tight-lipped about an investigation into whether abuse or neglect may have resulted in Zoe's death. On top of that, they're the same agency leading the investigation. So we asked the governor her thoughts on that, and she also spoke about bringing back legislation that would allow the agency to release information sooner. Here's what she had to say.
That bill did not make it through the legislature. We will propose it again this session. It's important. I understand people's frustration.
In deciding whether abuse or neglect may have been involved, it's DCF leading that investigation. Do you believe that's perhaps a conflict of interest when it comes to deciding that factor?
I don't think so. You know, this is the way it's always been done. You know, if after the investigation is done, it appears that there's a problem, you know, we will look into that and recommend changes.
Now, as for the transparency law proposed by DCF 2 years ago, House Bill 2127, it was stalled in the legislature. The governor wants to bring it back again this year, and we've seen laws like this change because of child deaths in the past, if you remember Adrian Jones in 2015. What are your thoughts on this renewed push we're seeing from the governor? Michael.
This is such a complex policy area. First of all, when you hear a story like this, it just breaks your heart. I mean, if you're human, this is going to affect you. It's tragic. And we don't want it to ever happen again. Legally, there are a lot of moving pieces, and one of the biggest moving pieces is that it involves minors. And there are all sorts of federal and state laws and court cases shielding information about minors. A lot of that just can't be disclosed. In addition to that, we have to remember that our foster care system is completely overwhelmed. So we may wonder, well, why don't they take kids out of these homes faster and get them placed for foster care? Because the system is overwhelmed to the point of breaking. It's maybe a little better than it was a few years ago with kids when kids were sleeping in state offices, but there may not be any place to put them. So I know our heart breaks for this story, but from a policy perspective, it is extremely complicated. There are no quick fixes.
Now, in the past, we've seen the governor lead the push to reform DCF and be more vocal when it comes to these issues like this. But she didn't speak for nearly 2 weeks on this case. Have things changed now that this is her last run in office? Why aren't we seeing her speak out as much on this situation? Michael, if you want to go first, then Bill.
Sure. Governor Kelly is very cautious by nature. She's not one to just blurt out things. Again, this case involves a minor, and it requires quite a bit of investigation and so on and so forth. And I suspect that she's working internally and she's being Laura Kelly. And Laura Kelly is very, very cautious. That's how she approaches things, especially lightning rod things like the death of a child. And so it's really consistent with her leadership style.
Bill, would you agree with that statement?
Yes, very much. I'd also would point out, you know, she has vast experience on both sides of the branches of government here. Long experience in the legislature, second-term governor, and so she has a deep understanding of how this government system is supposed to work. The administration is supposed to investigate and get the facts, and in fact our system of government has a lot of built-in mechanisms, so we don't rush to judgment. So we let things cool and passions don't get overheated, and we make rushes to judgment. So I think she understands the necessity of that, and there'll be a time to stand and be a little more impassioned about this, but as Michael said, taking a cautionary approach and knowing how both sides of the branches work and level each other out. I think she's waiting for her turn to speak more on this.
Well, Bill, we also asked the governor whether there may be a conflict of interest with DCF leading the investigation. However, she says that's how it's always been. Should it be that way, though? Should an agency police itself in this situation? What do you think?
Good question. Short answer is yes. You know, administrators, the administration administers. They are the professionals in the best position to know the rules, regulations, or protocols of how to best implement the laws that the legislature passes. So they administer themselves, and we want them to do that investigation. We want them to. We want to know what they find. On the other hand, there will be plenty of time for the legislature to provide oversight of the administration as well, which is what their duty is, which is what their role is here. So, so investigating yourself in a sense, yeah, you want and you would hope the administration takes the first crack at saying, okay, this is where we need to improve. Here's what we want to change with regard to if there's any laws or protocols. And then if legislature and the public are not satisfied with that, that's what they are there for, to provide that oversight and make changes.
Michael, your thoughts on that?
Well, I agree. Again, the agency preparing a report is only a first step. It will be reviewed by the legislature. This is the kind of thing I'm so passionate about, that this is what legislatures are supposed to do. They're not supposed to fight culture wars or be in front of the TV cameras all the time. They're supposed to be doing this day-to-day stuff, like what we call oversight, overseeing the agencies, reading those reports, actually reading them, and certainly grilling them about those reports, but grilling them in a way that shows they've done research ahead of time and they're asking informed questions. And of course that should be made available to the news media as well, but again, because there's a minor involved, you're probably going to see some parts of that redacted.
Now, I know the man charged with Zoe's death is charged with capital murder. He may be facing the death penalty in this case, which has a long history in Kansas. We spoke with the chief attorney for the death penalty defense unit, the unit handling the defendant's case, who says life without parole is a better option than the death penalty. There's also been attempts to abolish the death penalty in the past, so I wanted to get your thoughts on this. Michael, what are your thoughts on that debate? If
Kansans want to know more about the death penalty, they just need to look east. Missouri is second in the nation for executions after Texas, and there are a lot of problems. There have been individuals who are, by any reasonable standard, declared mentally incompetent. They have been executed. There have been some questionable evidence. There have been attempts to introduce new evidence that you can't. It's not a foolproof system. I think most people, including most people who advocate the death penalty, would say, sure, execute the guilty of the most heinous crimes, but for heaven's sake, don't execute the innocent. And public defenders are overwhelmed. There's a lot of inequality from county to county. And so before we race off and say death penalty, death penalty, death penalty, we need to remember that there is a policy and a procedure, and the cases that grab headlines are not always the ones that are the most difficult.
Bill, did you have any thoughts on that?
I agree. You made a great point about public defenders, for instance, and as the poor and indigent are represented, and they could be moving towards a capital case like this, they're getting 5-6 minutes with them. Not near enough to prepare a case, to at least protect them from the death penalty. So. Yeah, I think there are plenty of other comparative states to look at if Kansas want to weigh those options.
All right, Michael, Bill, thank you. When we come back, the fight over special education money is heating up. What Republican lawmakers are saying now, plus what will happen for money to Kansas schools, how a move from the Attorney General could impact school districts. We'll be right back. You're watching Inside Kansas Politics.
Energy costs and temperatures are rising, and custom sheet metal can help. Our NATE certified technicians provide service and placement of all major systems. Right now, get up to $2,200 in tax credits and rebates on qualifying heating and air conditioning systems. Save big on your energy bill while improving your indoor quality and environment. These tax credits are only offered for a limited time, so now is the perfect time to upgrade. Financing available. Call 357-6200.
Mental health is about emotional health and brain health.
Healthy children and families,
and a healthy Kansas.
Go to acmhck.org to find your local community mental health center.
Better living starts with better sleep, and that begins with a great mattress from Lebeda Mattress Factory. Whether you desire a luxury pillow top, a two-sided flippable mattress for extended durability, or a true hybrid with edge-to-edge pocketed coils for contouring support and reduced partner disturbance, you'll find them all at Lebeda. Great nights make great days, and during the Sweet Dreams Sweet Savings Sale, you'll find better sleep and savings too. Plus, take 4 years to pay at Lebeda.
Monstrous monthly fees, shocking overdraft charges, and agonizing ATM fees? Your checking account sounds horrifying. Look, if you're caught in a web of frustration with your bank, then contact Communication Federal Credit Union. Don't be afraid. Let us shine a light on your finances with incredible free checking account options. Let CFCU show you how unscary your checking account can be. Communication Federal.
Topeka ER and Hospital is proud to help bring you a 27 News series, recognizing local women who are making a positive impact in our communities.
Watch Everything Woman on 27 News, sponsored by Sharp Honda, Topeka ER and Hospital, and Washburn University.
Welcome back to Inside Kansas Politics. I'm Rebecca Chung. We're shifting now to education issues in Kansas with political experts Michael Smith and Bill Finder. Bill, special education is one of those issues. Public education advocates say the state and federal government have failed to meet the appropriate funding levels for special education, forcing some districts to dip into their general funds. Last year, the governor asked lawmakers for a $72 million increase in special ed money. That was tied to a school choice bill, which failed to make it out this year. But what could happen next year is the question. Will lawmakers move to give more money to special ed? Right now, it seems like lawmakers may look into other options. Representative Christy Williams, the Republican chair of the Special Committee on Education, says they may want to look into the statute more before spending money. Plus, the Special Education Task Force that was created has yet to meet. What do you say, Michael? Will special education get more money next year?
I think it probably will get more money and more oversight together. Representative Williams has also suggested that maybe some money has been misallocated. I'm not endorsing that, but I think she's going to want to look into it more closely, which is understandable. That's part of oversight. The interesting thing about this special education issue is it's actually in the state constitution. So technically the state is not in compliance with its own constitution. But these legislators are essentially suggesting the school districts are misallocating the money they have to other things besides special education. And if the school districts are going to get any money, they're probably going to get a grilling first.
Okay. Now on to the battle over money for Kansas schools. With funding levels higher than before, Attorney General Chris Kobach wants the state Supreme Court to close a lawsuit filed by 4 school districts in 2010. This could make it harder for local districts to force higher spending in the future. Bill, how could this play out for school districts?
Probably not on their side. I don't think anybody wants to go back to the last 10 or 12 years of the Gannon lawsuits through the Supreme Court and uncertainties over education funds every year, it seemed like, in the past. For folks that don't know, I mean, we have a very unique constitution that provides for a suitable provision for education financing for all of our students. And it really has a tendency to level some of that playing field between poor districts and wealthier districts. We are in the top 5 of all states that state spends on their schools, which takes burden off the property taxes of the localities. So it's a very good system we have in place. Removing the lawsuits or closing the lawsuits, though, will certainly have an impact on school districts scrambling around. It removes them one more step away from keeping the legislature accountable for that constitutional right that Michael spoke of. And so if they want to come back and hold the legislature's feet to the fire, and those cases are closed, they've got to start that back up all over again. That's a longer road. Certainly something they probably would want to rather not have.
And Michael, quickly here, what's your take?
Well, I agree. It wouldn't be impossible to bring lawsuits in the future. They would have to be new lawsuits. So it's just sort of shifting the balance of power. If it were to pass, it would shift it to the legislature more than the courts. It wouldn't close off future lawsuits, which has been attempted in the past, and that didn't go anywhere. But it would make it more difficult. The big issue right now is that Kansas is sitting on a large surplus. What happens when that runs out?
Okay. Bill, Michael, thank you. After the break, local control is the next issue on the table. Why city and county officials are calling out state lawmakers for government overreach. We'll be right back. You're watching Inside Kansas Politics.
At 2 Men and a Truck, we'll treat you and your belongings like we'd treat our own grandmas.
Here we go! Hello there. Welcome.
Whether we're moving you across town or even across the country.
Find great authentic Mexican food at the Mexican Taco Shop. Our locations at 1901 Southwest 10th in Topeka and 419 West 6th in Junction City are always open. Dine in, drive through, or carry out. Or visit our 37th and Burlingame location. Open 8 a.m. to 11 p.m. Quick lunches between 1 and 1:30 plus free coffee. 3 convenient locations, 2 in Topeka and 1 in Junction City. Take a short trip to Mexico at the Mexican Taco Shop.
Growing the market for Kansas-made E15 is a win-win for Kansans. What's E15? It's fuel with 15% ethanol compared to the usual 10% in regular unleaded. E15 is more affordable, has better performance, and runs cleaner than regular unleaded, meaning Kansas drivers can go further for less. From helping Kansas farm families by stabilizing grain prices, helping Kansas become more energy independent, and adding more than 4,000 jobs in Kansas, more of our money stays right here at home because of ethanol. Visit fueledbykansas.com to find a station near you.
Hi folks, we have been installing windows and doors for over 30 years. Our fiberglass windows and doors are very durable and energy efficient. We have over 25 colors and finishes to choose from. When we install your windows, we remove the entire window down to the rough opening and install a complete new unit with all new interior and exterior trim. If you're looking for an excellent job at an affordable price, call Window Design and Remodeling today. We are your home remodeling specialist.
Next, Kelly, Darius Rucker, and comedian Nikki Glazer.
Is it distracting when people are singing the wrong lyric? Does it ever mess you up?
Well, usually I'm the one singing the wrong lyric.
Monday at 3 on 27 KSNT.
Welcome back to Inside Kansas Politics. I'm Rebecca Chung. Local control is the next issue we're focusing on. Michael Smith and Bill Fiender are here to break down how state politics can impact local government. Michael, Bill, I was able to sit in on a roundtable with local officials across the state who say they're fed up with the limits coming down from the state. Bill, you've had an extensive run in local government in the past. From your perspective, how can state laws impact how local government operates?
Well, Rebecca, as we were talking about the Constitution, here's another constitutional right. Cities were allowed to rule themselves. It's something called home rule as far back as 1961. It's embedded into the Kansas Constitution. As I said, to self-govern. They charter out and they develop their own laws, what the priorities of those localities are, and there's tends to be conflict because if the state constitution is silent about certain laws, then it frees the cities to develop their own laws. An example. A few years ago, we had the controversy over the tobacco age limits for purchasing tobacco 21. Some cities wanted more restrictive age limits. The state's law, and it was more restrictive than the state law. And they went to the Supreme Court and they ultimately won that right to have more restrictive tobacco age limits in their cities. And that's a perfect example of where those conflicts come into play. People think the state kind of has a control over cities, and they really don't. Only in the sense where there's a state law that's at play. But when it comes to things like everything from zoning to sign control to this annexation and growing, even their own budget. The state has kind of put their thumbprint on all of those at various times throughout the state.
And Michael, how has this issue changed over the years? Is it something that's become more prevalent currently?
Yes, it's been sucked into the culture war. I mean, what hasn't, really? So we have to remember that there's a lot of variation across the state in terms of how people vote. So here in Kansas, for example, you have Lawrence, where Democrats often win by double-digit margins. You have Kansas City, Kansas, same thing. Parts of Topeka and Wichita, even Manhattan to some extent. And there are people in these communities that would like to do things that the state does not want them to do. And it can be bipartisan. So for example, when Kansas City, Kansas passed a safe and welcoming ordinance that included ID cards for undocumented immigrants, the state of Kansas canceled it. And so what we're really seeing is this sort of overriding, across the way from Kansas City, Kansas. Kansas City, Missouri doesn't even have local control over its police department. It's controlled by the state of Missouri, but paid for by the people of Kansas City, Missouri. So this is a huge issue. This is what you might call the Blue Islands in red state America, these communities that don't vote the way the majority votes. You'll see the same thing in a liberal state where there are certain conservative communities that want to go a different direction. And so it's really escalated because of the culture war.
How do we balance state and local power on certain issues? What are some examples, Bill?
The ultimate balancer really comes down to the courts. They're the referees here, and while cities may be aggrieved from time to time with a state intervention or a law, they do not run to the courts every time that happens, and they pick and choose that. The tobacco case, as I mentioned earlier, is a perfect example of it was a public health issue. Public health is not in the state constitution, at least in that regard, and so they challenged it. But most cities look at the state as a partner. So how far do you want to go to upset that apple cart?
And Bill, as you well know, there's something called Dillon's Rule from a court case from Iowa from many years ago. Cities and counties, local governments, they don't have reserve powers from the state. If the state of Kansas wanted to dissolve the city of Topeka tomorrow, they could do that. There are reserve powers for the states from the federal government, but there's no such thing at the state level. So one of the reasons why you don't see lawsuits is because they know they probably couldn't win.
All right, Michael, Bill, thank you. We'll be right back. You're watching Inside Kansas Politics.
Organization brings peace of mind. Polito, closets, garages, and more. From decluttering closets to providing added workspace solutions throughout the home. We design, build, and install storage solutions of every kind. Visit Polito Closets today.
Normal. We're all trying to get back to it together. But what if there were a new normal? One where everyone recognized how much we need everyone else and how much we need everyone to be healthy. At Grace Med, that's our hope. That's why we provide a medical home in 16 locations with a wide range of healthcare services for everyone, regardless of their ability to pay. It's also why we deliver care when and where it's needed most. Because we're Grace Med, the home of hope care for everyone.
Huge savings going on now during Vanderbilt's fall clearance event. Wolverine I-90 work boots, $109.99. Hot price on Twisted X casual boot, $139.99. Ariat rebar work jeans, $52.99. Check out our new FXD workwear, pants, jackets, and hoodies. Special purchase on WF2 quarter zip, starting at $49.99.
Work Boot Center, Vanderbilt.
I'm Justin Glasgow, owner of Performance Tire and Auto. Go with the tires that perform well in any weather and come with a rebate. From now until November 30th, you can claim up to a $75 Cooper Tire reward when you buy a set of 4 qualifying tires. See our entire lineup of tires at either of our 2 locations, 17th and Topeka Boulevard or 1735 North Kansas Avenue.
Welcome back to Inside Kansas Politics. I'm Rebecca Chung, continuing our conversation with Bill Finder and Michael Smith. Now, Michael, Bill, another issue where the state and local government collide is property taxes. This is expected to be a major debate next year. Local officials are calling for the state to revive a fund that they say would allow them to lower property taxes. But Republican lawmakers are skeptical about how that money will be used. Instead, GOP leaders are eyeing other solutions. One that came up in the past and we could see again would have capped property tax valuation increases. Bill, what are your thoughts on this debate?
Oh boy. So the debate is absolutely warranted, as anybody can tell you by looking at their property taxes in the last couple of years and their valuations as a property owner. Mine went up 21% in the last couple of years. Absolutely warranted. I also think it's absolutely misplaced to start at the state and think they will have a meaningful relation to do anything about them. If you look at your tax bill as a property owner, 99% of that bill, in most cases, is all local services, all funds, all local services, whether it's the city, county, schools, it's all accounted for at the local level. Your local elected leader is the one who takes the shots if things aren't working well, if the money is being used inappropriately. They're the ones who have to take that run. So I would just advise folks, if we have this debate and if we look at solutions, your first and most meaningful shot would be at the local level.
Okay. Now, something we've talked about before as well, Bill, and a question you posed, whose responsibility is it to handle this issue, the state or local government? Michael, what's your take?
I think Bill makes a really great point. Property taxes are so difficult because we don't control the assessments as taxpayers. We don't vote on that. That's what they say your property is worth, but yet they can cause your taxes to go up substantially. And it is very stressful. We've experienced it in our household too. We get it. At the same time, of course, there's the issue that the cost of the services like schools, police, fire, EMTs, community college, libraries, those are under stress as well, and we want to fund those. So I agree that local government should be the first resort, but I do wonder about some type of a shock absorber or something like that, so that when you have these huge jumps, we expect them to go up incrementally, but when you have these huge jumps, and it really for some people comes down to, are you even going to be able to stay in your house? I think it would be in our best interest to find a way to help people stay in their homes.
All right, Michael Smith and Bill Fiender, thank you both. And that was your look inside Kansas politics. If you want to keep up to date on all things Kansas politics, then follow us on social media. Follow us on Twitter at InKansasPolitics and on Facebook. Just search Inside Kansas Politics. Then we'll also post the full video on YouTube. Just search KSNT News and check ksnt.com/inside-kansas-politics for past episodes. If you have a story you want Kansas state legislators to hear or topics you think we should cover, let us know. You can email us at ikp@ksnt.com. We'll see you here same time, same place. Have a good day.